Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Nashtaprayeshu Vabhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Ruttama-shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Om Ajnana-timirandhasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayyam Dadati Swapadantikam Namam Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Reading from Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. By His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. We are reading from Canto 3, Chapter 28, Kapila's instruction on devotional service. So we are in the section where there is a description of the different personality, the limbs of the Supreme Lord. And this is the final verse in that section. Text 33. Dhyanāyanam prahasitam bahulādharoṣṭha bhāsārunāyitatanu kundapangti ध्यायेत् स्वदेह कुहरे वसितस्य विष्णोर् भक्त्यार्द्रया अर्पितमना न पृथक् दिदृक्षेत्. Translation.
With devotion, steeped in love and affection, the yogi should meditate within the core of his heart upon the laughter of Lord Viṣṇu. The laughter of Viṣṇu is so captivating that it can be easily meditated upon. When the Supreme Lord is laughing, one can see his small teeth, which resemble jasmine buds, rendered rosy by the splendor of his lips. Once devoting his mind to this, the yogi should no longer desire to see anything else. Purport. It is recommended that the yogi visualize the laughter of the Lord after studying his smile very carefully. These particular descriptions of meditation on the smile, laughter, face, lips, and teeth all indicate conclusively that God is not impersonal. It is described herein that one should meditate on the laughter or smiling of Viṣṇu. There is no other activity that can completely cleanse the heart of the devotee. The exceptional beauty of the laughter of Lord Viṣṇu is that when he smiles, his small teeth, which resembles the buds of jasmine flowers, at once become reddish, reflecting his rosy lips. If the yogi is able to place the beautiful face of the Lord in the core of his heart, he will be completely satisfied. In other words, when one is absorbed in seeing the beauty of the Lord within himself, the material attraction can no longer disturb him. Hare Krishna.
Dhyanāyanam prahasitam. Now there is with devotion. This is the general mood of a devotee now. With devotion, steeped in love and affection, the yogi, a devotee, in the core of his heart should meditate on laughter of the Supreme Lord. Right. So we have seen prasanna vadana. The Lord is smiling, and one should meditate on that smile. The laughter of Vishnu is so captivating, and it can be very easily meditated upon. One can also see the small teeth of the Lord resembling the jasmine buds rendered rosy by the splendor of his lips. And thus, a devotee should no longer desire to see anything else. So this is the general mood of a devotee. And these concluding 3 verses, they are focusing on the lotus face of the Supreme Lord, laughter of the Supreme Lord. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains that the yogi should visualize the laughter, and after studying his smile very carefully. So, right. So, Lord is always smiling, right? Nava yavvanam cha, ever fresh, always smiling. And one should meditate on the smile of the Supreme Lord. So, see, when taking darshan is such a involved activity. It's not that, we go in front of temple, close our hands, sometimes, people will close their eyes also, and, will do some namaskaram kind of thing. And that's also wonderful. That's very nice, right? They have come to temple, they are seeing. But then there is beyond that. One should take a very detailed darshan of the Supreme Lord. And Bhagavatam step by step explains how to take darshan, and how this kind of a darshan will purify oneself, and which aspect of darshan will purify which anartha in one's mind. So there is a recommendation on meditation on smile, laughter, face, lips, teeth of the Lord, and how childish it is to say that the Lord is impersonal. No, Lord is personality. He is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Right. And one meditates on the laughter of the Supreme Lord, then one completely cleanses the heart of one's own heart. So the face of the Supreme Lord, generally it is said that the beauty is concentrated on the face of a personality, right? And here one can see the laughter of the Supreme Lord, and then one can see the rosy teeth of the Supreme Lord, which are reflecting the color of his lips also. And by this, one should be completely captivated, right? Generally, as a conditioned life, we want to be captivated by some muscle of a hero or some laughter of an actress or something like that. But here, that where this tendency is coming from, this tendency is coming from our original tendency that we are attracted by the Supreme Lord. We are attracted by the beauty of Radha Krishna, Sitaram, Lakshmi Narayan, and that the same beauty we are trying to find here in the material world. And one after another, nothing is satisfying. But when one is focused like this, Prabhupada writes here, material attraction will no longer disturb him. Text 34. Now, text 34 to 38, we are seeing that liberation and what is the state of mind of a yogi. Right? This is the 4th section of this chapter. Text 34. Evam harau bhagavati pratilabdha bhavo bhaktya dravatarudhaya utpulaka pramodat औत्कण्ठ्य बाष्पकलया मुहुरर्ध्यमाना तच्चापि चित्तबडिशं शनकैर्वियुङ्क्ते. Very, very beautiful verse. Yes.
Translation. By following this course, the yogi gradually develops pure love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari. In the course of his progress in devotional service, the hairs on his body stand erect through excessive joy, and he is constantly bathed in a stream of tears occasioned by intense love. Gradually, even the mind, which he used as a means to attract the Lord, as one attracts a fish to a hook, withdraws from material activity. Purport. Here it is clearly mentioned that meditation, which is an action of the mind, is not the perfect stage of samādhi or absorption. In the beginning, the mind is employed in attracting the form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But in the higher stages, there is no question of using the mind. A devotee becomes accustomed to serving the Supreme Lord by purification of his senses. In other words, the yoga principles of meditation are required as long as one is not situated in pure devotional service. The mind is used to purify the senses, but when the senses are purified by meditation, there is no need to sit in a particular place and try to meditate upon the form of the Lord. One becomes so habituated that he automatically engages in the personal service of the Lord. Sorry. When the mind forcibly is engaged upon the form of this Lord, this is called Nirbhaya Yoga or lifeless yoga, for the yogi does not automatically engage in the personal service of the Lord. But when he is constantly thinking of the Lord, that is called Sabhija Yoga or living yoga. one has to be promoted to the platform of living yoga. One should engage in the service of the Lord 24 hours a day, as confirmed in the Brahma Samhita. The stage of prema-bhakti chuharita can be attained by developing complete love. When one's love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead in devotional service is fully developed, one always sees the Lord, even without artificially meditating on his form. His vision is divine because he has no other engagement. At this stage of spiritual realization, it is not necessary to engage the mind artificially. Since the meditation recommended in the lower stages is a means to come to the platform of devotional service, those already engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord are above such meditation. This stage of perfection is called Krishna consciousness. Hare Krishna.
Now, by following this process, this course, yogi gradually develops pure love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this is how one will develop love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And what is the effect of love? Effect of love is bhaktya drava drita hridaya utpulaka pramodat. Very, very deep, intense words these are. Right. Autkantya bashpakalaya muhuradyamana. Again, very, very deep words inside. The hairs of his body will stand on end with excessive joy. One will be constantly bathed in the streams of tears occasioned by intense love, and gradually the mind will be withdrawn from material activity. The mind was used as a hook to the Supreme Lord, but now it will completely withdraw from the material activity. Srila Prabhupada writes amazing purport. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes that meditation, which is an action of the mind, is not the perfection of samādhi. Right? In the beginning, the mind is employed, mind is used in attracting the form of the Lord, but in the higher stages, there is no question of using the mind. So progressively, what is going to happen is, we are going to, mind will automatically, currently mind is forcibly being engaged, like yato nischalati manas chanchalam, that bring it back, bring it back, focus on, the sound vibration, focus on the devotional service. But later, a devotee becomes accustomed to serving the Supreme Lord by purification of his senses. So this is sarvopadhi vinirmuktam tatparatvena nirmalam. So this is when the nirmalata of the senses is there, then what happens? When the senses are purified by meditation, there is no need to sit in a particular place and try to meditate on the form of the Supreme Lord. Right. Now what happens? That meditation takes the form of active engagement, and that active engagement is devotional service. And therefore, when one is actively engaged in devotional service, one mind also will be automatically engaged. Right. Look at the process. The yoga process says, first engage your mind and slowly withdraw your senses. Devotional service says, first engage your senses, rishikena rishikesha sevanam, and automatically mind will be forced to be engaged in that service. So Prabhupada says, therefore the yoga, they are called as two types of yoga. One is nirbija yoga and another is sabija yoga. What is the nirbija yoga? Nirbija yoga means when is engaged in the yoga practice, mind is forcibly engaged in the form of the Lord without any love within. Right? That is nirbija yoga. But what is the sabija yoga? Prabhupada says that nirbija yoga is the lifeless yoga. For the yogi, it does not automatically engage in the personal service of the Lord. But when he is thinking constantly of the Lord, that is called as sabija yoga. And one has to evolve oneself to the platform of sabija yoga. And this we can see everywhere. Like, we can say that somebody coming to job, he is like a very lifeless person. Just coming to Marathi, we call it as pate takne. Okay. Somebody very, very ritualistically, he will be coming. He'll just thumb in, do the needful just enough so that he will not be kicked out from the job. Right. So that is like a very lifeless, job. Sometimes, our chanting also can be a lifeless chanting. Just chanting so that number 16 is reached, 16 rounds are done. Happens with me also. So at times. So that is life. But then when this autkantya bashpa kalaya bhaktya dravad, then that becomes lifeful. And one very important technique Prabhupada used to suggest always is that when you don't feel enthusiastic, act enthusiastic. When we don't feel like something, rush yourself to temple, take association of the devotees, try to chant with those who are chanting very nicely, go to temple and chant in the morning program, attend the lectures of those who fill our life with great enthusiasm and vigor in devotional service. So this is how one has to make lifeless yoga into lifeful yoga. Later, Prabhupada says one should actually engage in the service of the Lord. How? Premanjana churita bhakti vilochanena. And this is how, this is the goal of all this, is developing this Krishna prema. And such a devotee, his vision becomes divine and he has no other engagement. And these are the recommended stages of perfectional Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada says meditation is recommended in the lower stages, and with the higher stages, there is direct devotional service. And therefore, the devotees, by engaged in devotional activity, they are directly meditating on the Supreme Lord. Right? Text 35. Muktashrayam yarhi nirvishayam viraktam nirvanarichyati manas sahasa yatharti atmanamatra purusha vyavadhanamekam anvikshate pratinimvrita guna pravaha. Translation.
When the mind is thus completely freed from all material contamination and detached from material objectives, it is just like the flame of a lamp. At that time, the mind is actually dovetailed with that of the Supreme Lord and is experienced as one with Him because it is freed from the interactive flow of the material qualities. Purport. In the material world, the activities of the mind are acceptance and rejection. As long as the mind is in material consciousness, it must be forcibly trained to accept meditation on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But when one is actually elevated to loving the Supreme Lord, the mind is automatically absorbed in thought of the Lord. In such a position, a yogi has no other thought than to serve the Lord. This dovetailing of the mind with the desires of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is called nirvana, or making the mind one with the Supreme Lord. The best example of nirvana is cited in Bhagavad Gita. In the beginning, the mind of Arjuna deviated from Krishna wanted Arjuna to fight, but Arjuna did not want to do. So there was disagreement. But after hearing Bhagavad Gita from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Arjuna dovetailed his mind with Krishna's desire. This is called oneness. This oneness, however, did not cause Arjuna and Krishna to lose their individualities. The Mayavadi philosophers cannot understand this. They think that oneness necessitates love of individuality. Actually, however, we find in Bhagavad Gita that individuality is not lost. When the mind is completely purified in love of Godhead, the mind becomes the mind of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The mind at that time does not act separately, nor does it act without inspiration to fulfill the desire of the Lord. The individual liberated soul has no other activity. Pratinivritta guna pravaha. In the conditioned state, the mind is always engaged in activity impelled by the three modes of material world. But in the transcendental stage, the material modes cannot disturb the mind of the devotee. The devotee has no other concern than to satisfy the desires of the Lord. That is the highest stage of perfection, called nirvana or nirvana mukti. At this stage, the mind becomes completely free from material desire. Yatharchit archi means flame. When a lamp is broken or the oil is finished, we see that the flame of the lamp goes out. But according to scientific understanding, the flame is not extinguished. It is conserved. This is conservation of energy. Similarly, When the mind stops functioning on the material platform, it is conserved in the activities of the Supreme Lord. The Mayavadi philosophers' conception of cessation of the functions of the mind is explained here. Cessation of the mental functions means cessation of activities conducted under the influence of the three modes of material nature.
So now here, the mind is completely freed from all material contamination and detached from material objects. Then that is, mind becomes, or how it becomes is, the lamp, which is the flame of a lamp, which is very still and steady. Thus the mind is naturally dovetailed towards the Supreme, and one attains nirvana, and one is completely free from pratinivritta guna pravaha, the interactive flow of material qualities. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains that the mind has only two functions, sankalpa and vikalpa, acceptance and rejectance. And as long as the mind is in the material consciousness, one has to force oneself to meditate on the Supreme Lord. But when one is elevated to love of Godhead, mind will naturally be engaged in the service of the Lord. Right? So just like the mother who is in love with the child will naturally think of the child. When the child cries, mother will naturally get up, way, 2 o'clock in the night, and she will be changing the child, the nappy and all those things. So why? Because the mother is acting on the platform of love. That action is on the platform of love, and therefore there is automatic engagement. And this is how the mind, this is how one attains nirvana, because there is a word nirvana mrichati, manas sahasa yatharchi. The word nirvana is used. So what is nirvana? Prabhupada says the real nirvana means our mind becomes one with the mind of the Supreme Lord. The best example is in Bhagavad Gita. How? In Bhagavad Gita, initially, Arjuna did not want to fight. Krishna wanted war to happen, and Krishna wanted nimitta matra bhavasavya Arjuna to be nimitta. But Arjuna, his mind deviated from Krishna's mind. And later, after hearing Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna decided to fight. And now, when we align our mind with the mind of the Supreme Lord, that is called as Nirvana. Prabhupada says, Mayavadi Nirvana means they became one. So one doesn't, it is such a, such a superficial understanding of becoming one. Is that become one means, you just merge both of them together, just merge them into, like you take two mud balls, merge into one and just become one. Not like that, right? Becoming one means becoming one in the interest. Just like, husband and wife, they are one in the house. What that means? They are one in the interest, right? So here, Arjuna became one with Krishna. That means Arjuna's interest, his inclinations, his thought process was completely aligned with Krishna's interest and his thought process and his mind. That is the oneness. Not that the oneness means one loses one's identity and just try to become one. Not like that. So that is the real meaning of the word nirvana. So because that word comes nirvana, Prabhupada gives elaborate purport on nirvana. Pratinivritta guna pravaha, that in the conditioned stage, there is constant flow of the guna, right? But in the liberated state, Prabhupada says, mind will not be affected by guna pravaha. Guna pravaha, very powerful word, it is guna pravaha. And how to get rid of guna pravaha? When there is bhagavat pravaha. Bhagavat pravaha means incessant, absorption in Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. So when we are incessantly absorbed in Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, just like every day we do in the morning, then what happens is, our mind is absorbed in the activities of the Lord. We begin our day with Bhagavatam, and then guna pravaha can be very nicely dodged by a devotee. Yatharchita, archi means flame, and with the flame, Prabhupada says, when the lamp is broken or oil is finished, the flame will go out. But according to scientific understanding, the flame is not extinguished. It is conserved by the law of conservation of energy. Similarly, when the mind stops functioning on the material platform, then what happens? it is conserved in the activities of the Supreme Lord, right? And this is called as yatharchita. Text 36. सोऽप्येतया चरमया मनसो निवृत्य तस्मिन् महिं न्यवसित् सुखदुःखबाह्ये हेतुत्वमपि असति कर्तरि दुःखयोर्यत् स्वात्मन् विधत्ते उपलब्ध परात्मकाष्ठः. Translation.
Thus situated in the highest transcendental stage, the mind ceases from all material reaction and becomes situated in its own glory, transcendental to all material conceptions of happiness and distress. At that time, the yogi realizes the truth of his relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He discovers that pleasure and pain, as well as their interactions, which he attributed to his own self, are actually due to the false ego, which is a product of ignorance. Purport. Forgetfulness of one's relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead is a product of ignorance. By yoga practice, one can eradicate this ignorance of thinking oneself independent of the Supreme Lord. One's actual relationship is eternally that of love. The living entity is meant to render transcendental loving service to the Lord. Forgetfulness of that sweet relationship is called ignorance. And in ignorance, one is impelled by the three material modes of nature to think himself the enjoyer. When the devotee's mind is purified and he understands that his mind has to be dotted with the desires of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he has attained the perfectional transcendental stage, which is beyond the perception of material distress and happiness. As long as one acts on his own account, he is subject to all the material perceptions of so-called happiness and distress. Actually, there is no happiness. Just as there is no happiness in any of the activities of a madman, so in material activities, the mental concoctions of happiness and distress are false. Actually, everything is distress. When the mind is dotted to act according to the desire of the Lord, one has attained the transcendental stage. The desire to lord it over material nature is the cause of ignorance. And when that desire is completely extinguished and the desires are dotted with those of the Supreme Lord, one has reached the perfectional stage. Upalabha paratma kashtaha. Upalabha means realization. Realization necessarily indicates individuality. In the perfectional, liberated stage, there is actual realization. Nivritya means that the living entity keeps his individuality. Oneness means that he realizes happiness in the happiness of the Supreme Lord. In the Supreme Lord, there is nothing but happiness. Anandamayo Bhasha. The Lord is by nature full of transcendental happiness. In the liberated stage, oneness with the Supreme Lord means that one has no realization other than happiness. But the individual still exists. Otherwise, this word upalabdha, indicating individual realization of transcendental happiness would not have been used. Hare Krishna.
Thus, situated in the highest transcendental stage, mind ceases from all material reaction and becomes situated in its own glory. So the mind is situated in the own glory, and he is transcendental to all concept of material happiness and distress. And at that point, he discovers that material pain and the pleasures, they are all simply product of the false ego, which is product of ignorance. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains, forgetfulness of one's relationship is with the Supreme Lord is a product of ignorance. This we have seen that, a devotee has his own relationship with the Supreme Lord, Jivera Swarupa, and then because of Krishna Bhuliya Jiv, ignorance, one has forgotten this relationship. And because one has forgotten this relationship, he has taken some artificial identity according to three modes of material nature, right? And this artificial identity is making one act in so many different ways, creating, the web work of actions and reactions. But when the mind is purified, then one's desires are dovetailed towards the desires of the Supreme Lord, and thus one will attain the perfectional stage, and then one can go beyond material happiness and distress. Prabhupada says, actually, as long as there is material perception, there is all distress, right? So I mean, sometimes we have this idea that there is happiness, and then there is distress. Material happiness is happiness, and material distress is distress. But when we really, on a very little more advanced stage, one will realize not only material distress is distress, even material happiness is also distress. And somebody may feel this is extreme pessimism. No, it is not extreme pessimism. Very simple example for this is fish outside water. So when fish is outside water, and you take the fish outside water and beat the fish, of course beating the fish is distress, right? Now you take fish outside the water and feed the fish gulab jamun. That is happiness. But simply because the fish is outside the water, that itself is a distress, and therefore any activity the fish is doing outside the water becomes a distress, right? Eating gulab jamun is happiness, but because this activity is performed by the fish outside of the water, therefore even the so-called happy activity becomes ultimate distress, because he's gasping for water, he's out of his constitutional position, right? So therefore Prabhupada says, actually everything material is a distress because we are not in our swarupa position. Then the mind is to be dovetailed to act in the transcendental realization. And Prabhupada says, whenever we say the word transcendental realization, that means after attaining transcendence, one is realizing, means one is retaining one's individuality. And therefore the word upalabdha is used, because upalabdhi is available only to a personality who has individuality. So we will conclude here and continue tomorrow. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Thank you, Prabhupada. Thank you, everyone. Hare Krishna.
Thank
Thank you, Rupa. Thank you, Rupa. Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji. Thank you, everyone. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhupada. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. No problem, Prabhuji.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Hare
Prabhuji. Hare
Krishna.
Krishna. Pranam.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, thank you very much. Today, nice analogies you give. Fish out of the water. But here I am just wanted to say, every because there is demand and other kind of negative activities also with there. So that kind of thing we are doing so much paraphernalia for good activities, yeah, Sankhya philosophy, other kind of religious duty. But that time, what is our भाव? इतना करने के बाद भी ऐसा कुछ satisfaction नहीं होता है, तो कैसे हम लोग आगे बढ़ सकते हैं?
That is why the mood is mood of yukta vairagya. So devotee is not critical of opulence. We want devotees to be rich. We want devotees to be happy. But how we want is devotees is in the mood of engaging whatever one has, whatever one possesses in Krishna consciousness. And that's why Rupa Goswami describes the technique of the mood of yukta vairagya. Happily engaging everything in the service of the Supreme Lord. So this understanding that everything is a distress, when it goes to the Buddhist philosophy, they will say, oh, nirvana, all zero, shunyavad. But we are not shunyavadis. We understand material thing is a distress, but we try to connect the material thing to Krishna, and then what is distressing becomes happiness. So coming back to our Prabhupada's fish and ocean analogy, and then, you put the fish in the water and give him the gulab jam inside the water, and the fish is very happy. He's in the water also and getting gulab jam also. Similarly, we will have material opulence. We will have, we have cooked a big feast then we offer it to the Supreme Lord, convert it into prasadam, and happily enjoy the prasadam. End of the day, Bhagavad Bhakti is susukham kartum avyayam. It's a very happy proposition to the soul, right? So, and that's why devotional service converts the material world into Vaikuntha. That is the potency of devotional service. So, devotee has philosophical understanding of this. Realizing this, he engages in the service of the Lord, and automatically, by the virtue of Yukta Vairagya, what happens is everything becomes very blissful for a devotee. Susukham kartum avyayam. Right?
Yes. Thank you.
Hare
very much.
Krishna.
Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
Prabhupada. Thank you, everyone. Hare Krishna.